Something courageous has happened in Indonesia's stock market. In just 2 days, $80 billion disappeared from the market, right? Trading was halted, not once, but twice. And shortly after that, the head of the Indonesian Stock Exchange resigned. So what actually happened? This was not caused by a war, a recession, or a banking collapse. It was triggered by a warning from a company most people have never heard of, MSCI. Right? MSCI stands for Morgan Stanley Capital International. And even though it's not a government, not a regulator, it quality controls where trillions of dollars around the world are invested. Here's why. Most large global investors don't choose countries one by one, right? They follow indices. And MSCI decides which countries belong in those indices, right? If a country is included, money flows in automatically. If a country is downgraded or removed, money flows out automatically. No debate, right? No emotions, just rules. Indonesia is classified as an emerging market by MSCI. That status is extremely valuable, right? It keeps Indonesian stocks inside global investment portfolios. But in mid-January 2026, MSCI raised serious concerns about Indonesia's stock market. Their first concern was transparency, right? In simple terms, MSCI questioned whether global investors can clearly see who actually controls many Indonesian public companies. Complex ownership structures, layered shareholdings, and unclear ultimate owners make investors nervous, right? If you don't know who is in charge with the company, you don't know where the risk is. The second issue was free float. Right? Free float means how many shares of a company are actually available for public trading. When most shares are tightly held by controlling groups, prices can move violently, and investors may not be able to exit safely. Right? MSCI was worried that too many Indonesian stocks lacked healthy free float. The third issue was market data reliability. Global investors depend on accurate, consistent, and transparent data. Right? MSCI signaled concerns about whether Indonesia's market data fully met international standards. Individually, right, these issues might seem technical. Together, they send a dangerous message to global investors. Right? That message was simple. Indonesia's market may not be as investable as previously assumed. Right? Once that message spread, the reaction was immediate. Right? Foreign investors began selling Indonesian stocks aggressively, not because they don't like Indonesia or they hate Indonesia, but because many of them are required by their rules to reduce exposure if a downgrade becomes likely. Right? This is called capital outflow. Right? In just days, around $600 million was pulled out by foreign investors. Right? The stock market fell so fast that the exchange had to press the emergency brake. Trading was halted twice in 2 days. That almost never happens. And by the end of the sell-off, roughly $80 billion in market value had been wiped out. Right? Then on January 13th, the director of the Indonesian Stock Exchange announced his resignation. Right? In global financial markets, leadership matters. When confidence collapses, accountability is a signal. His resignation was meant to tell investors that the problem was acknowledged and that change was coming. Right? Soon after, regulators stepped in. Operations continued, a temporary replacement was appointed, and the government promised reforms to address MSCI's concerns. This was not a collapse of Indonesia's economy. Banks did not fail. Companies did not, suddenly become unprofitable. Consumers did not stop spending. This was a crisis of trust. A reminder that in global markets, perception can move faster than fundamentals. And when trust disappears, money leaves first and questions are asked later. Right? What happens next depends on whether Indonesia can convince global investors that its market is transparent, reliable, and investable. Because in global financial system, confidence is not optional, right? It's everything.